This is the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on the New Horizon Radio. In association with Haversley, experts in the sale of lettings, estate agency and block management businesses. If you're thinking of selling now or in the next 5 years, get in touch. They're a friendly bunch at haversleygroup.com.
Welcome to the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show here on New Horizon. A little bit about me, loyal friend, journaler, proud cat mum and boy mum, and yes, it is a thing being a cat mum, and I'm obsessed with afternoon teas. On my show today, talking about my amazing floral workshop with Cerus, Working With Waterstones, Donna Ashworth's amazing journal, my top TV pick, which is the gold, and the North and South divide. What have I been up to? Really, really busy. As I said, I've been to this incredible floral workshop, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. My dentist appointment that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. All I needed to do is change my toothbrush head. Little tip there. That's probably all you need to do as well if you're struggling. I had a wonderful weekend away to see my bestie up in Yorkshire. And coming up, I've got a trip to the V&A to see the Cartier exhibition next week. Another exciting event if you're getting married, so stay tuned. And some unbelievably exciting news about a big concert next week. But my lips are sealed. Shh. Yeah, and I've been talking about this floral workshop for weeks. Really, really excited. Cerus Botanical Workshops are incredible. I was really looking forward to sharing this experience with my sister. And when I walked into Cerus's beautiful, beautiful workshop, which is in, it's next to Thrift Farm, so on Thriftwood, it's just like this, like a little magical Aladdin's cave. And I promise you, I actually cried. It was so beautiful. It was just a sea of color, absolutely incredible, just sparkles and flowers and peacock feathers. And I was really, really in my happy place. And this is what I made. So for the purposes of radio, I've made this incredible wreath, if I say so myself, actually. It's obviously over the top, just like me, but it was a peacock feather workshop, floral wreath workshop. And I got to use, obviously, the feathers, the silk flowers, so this will last forever. Lots and lots of sparkle ribbons, and honestly, it was girly heaven for me. But it's so much more than that, actually, because it's really, really therapeutic. And I'm no gardener, and I don't do anything with plants or anything like that. But it was such a special thing. And as I say, we sat at the bench, and we were she gave us a blank wreath and said, just do what you want. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. And so we started with the leaves and the foliage, which is just sort of these bits underneath. And then we could just add whatever we wanted. And then she sort of do the gluing bits, so the technical bit. But for that hour and a half, I just kind of forgot about the outside world, and I was really, really present. I didn't think about anything else except what I was doing and creating this beautiful wreath. And I was there with my sister, which was really special, and two other wonderful women, and it just felt like a really intimate thing to do. And there's something very special about Cerus. She has a great energy, and as I say, she does these amazing workshops throughout the year. The next one, I'm not sure what the next one is, but I'm going to be doing the Thanksgiving one, which is all going to be pumpkins and orange, and then obviously a Christmas one would be an amazing thing to do, a Christmas wreath. I mean, what's the smell being on a Christmas tree farm? That is going to be absolutely incredible. And Cerus is going to be my guest on my show in September, so watch the space. But as I say, if you want to do something really therapeutic, it's only £35. You could produce something as beautiful as this. Honestly, it is absolutely amazing. That's Cerus Botanical Designs. So last weekend I went up to Yorkshire to see my best friend Steph, and we've had a friendship that has spanned 35 years. We have been through absolutely everything together. As I said, we came overseas together. She went north and I went south, and that's how it's always been. But we've never ever lost contact, ever, not once. And we speak at least 2 or 3 times a week, and unfortunately we only get to see each other once or twice a year, but every time we do, it's really, really special, and we do not stop talking. But as I say, these kind of friendships are once in a lifetime. I say 35-year friendship. We've been through marriages, divorce, having kids. Our kids are the same age, really shocking relationships, job changes, poverty, moving house, and obviously we moved countries together. So we've been through it all together. So she's there, she's my rock, she's my person, and I love her very much. And we had such a lovely weekend. We went for an afternoon tea, which is what I wanted to talk about, actually. The afternoon tea was really cute. It was at a little sort of railway cafe, but we were sitting outside and it started to rain. And so and our sandwiches had arrived, and we were sort of really eating and enjoying ourselves, and then the heavens just opened, And all of a sudden, these women just came and picked up our stuff and took it inside for us. And Steph and I looked at each other, and I said to these women, I said, "Do you work here?" And they went, "No." And I went, "So you've just got up, out of your table, interrupted your afternoon tea, and you've picked up our stuff because we didn't have enough hands to take our afternoon tea through." And I just looked at Steph. I said, "Is this normal?" And she said, "Yeah, it is normal." She said, "This is how it is up here." And I said, and I didn't want to stereotype anything, and I don't know why there was this divide. And I googled it, and previously there was sort of socio and economic reasons why there is that north and south divide, but pre sort of industrial revolution, there was less money up in the north. But people are friendlier. So I would have thought that if life is harder for you, you'd be less friendly. But that's absolutely not the case at all. So these complete strangers picked up our afternoon tea and brought it inside out of the rain, and our sandwiches were saved. So no soggy bottoms for us. But it was incredible. And again, we went on a dog walk, and every single person stopped and chatted to us and said hello and talked about the dogs and stuff. And that the only time I remember that happening was when it was lockdown. And everybody was, that's what we were out walking every day and saying hello to each other and saying we were going to be kind and we were going to stay sociable. We haven't done that. So it's really, really interesting. I found it a really interesting, just the difference between north and south. And went to the gym when I got back, and again, that sort of distance. I'm not saying all southerners are unfriendly, but there is definitely a north and south divide. And my TV pick of the week is The Gold, which is on iPlayer. It is the second series, a cracking first series, and the second series I didn't think could be any better, but it actually is. It's incredible. It's about the Brink's-Mat robbery, which happened at Heathrow Airport in 1983, and it was the largest gold heist in history. And it's a dramatized documentary, but it's more of a drama. But everything that happened, they portrayed that. And Hugh Bonneville stars as the sort of the copper it was dogged determination. He's determined to bring the criminals to justice. And Jack Lowden as Kenneth Noy, who was a really, really nasty piece of work, and he was instrumental in putting the gang together. And 2 men actually died at his hand. And he's a really, really nasty piece of work. And Jack Lowden plays him, as I say, in this drama. And he's excellent. I've seen him in Wild Horses, Slow Horses, and he's incredible. He's a really versatile actor. So he's actually Scottish, but he plays pure Cockney in this, and it's a great series. It is back with a brilliant bang. And if you like a drama that is true, The Gold is incredible. The acting is amazing, and the fact is that they were involved in this heist, and then the gold was sort of dispatched and smelted, and was never found. That was what was the interesting thing. And the police were after them for 20 odd years, and they could not find this gold. But the ill-gotten gains, the proceeds of the gold, were the robbers, so to speak, ended up living sort of, one of them lived in sort of Tenerife, and he ended up sort of running a dodgy timeshare. And they got prosecuted in the end, but they never actually found the gold. So they were prosecuted for stealing or murder, but they never actually found the gold. So it'd be really interesting to know what happened to that gold, and I don't know whether there'll be a third series. I don't think so, because it was wrapped up nicely, but a cracking cast. And as I say, if you like a really great sort of drama, docudrama, but more drama, but a true story, The Gold is absolutely phenomenal, and it's on the iPlayer, not the iPlayer, BBC iPlayer. It's incredible. To be honest with you, if I'm looking for some great viewing, iPlayer always comes up trumps, but for me it's ITVX. There's always a cracking detective drama on there. And my son said to me the other day, he said, why do you always watch, what are you watching? You're always watching the same thing. He said, don't you like documentaries? I said, oh no, not really. I like a psychological drama. I like the thrill of a detective chase, or the whole escapism. And he said, all women your age sort of like that. I said, well, that's quite a stereotypical thing to say. And then I chatted to most of my friends, and we all decided that we do like that, actually. And I think it's just escapism. But I do like it when there's an element of truth, actually. So, as I say, if you want a cracking drama, it's The Gold on iPlayer. So I'm going to be talking, it's kind of a working with Waterstones section, but not technically. This book is available in Waterstones, but it was actually given to me for my birthday by my best friend. And it's the best journal I've ever had. It's Donna Ashworth's Words to Live By. It's the number one Sunday Times bestseller. She's a number one Sunday Times bestselling author. She's a Scottish poet. She's what's known as an Insta poet. She started writing sort of poetry during lockdown, and some celebrities sort of read it out, and it just became a thing. So her blog became really popular, and then she got signed to a publisher, and the rest is history. She's written these incredible books called For the Women, and they're really powerful, and she's very open about her battle with darkness. And what I love about this book, she says, I don't write because I'm brimming with sunshine. I write because I naturally run dark. And for those of us who run dark, who feel hard, who see everything, must daily work at that disposition in order to enjoy this life, to survive this world. I write to encourage an attitude of gratitude, to remind myself that living with kindness as my lead changes at everything, quite like magic, and there is magic in this life. That is surely it. I write to combat a mind full of chaotic thoughts, flying in a myriad directions. Like pulling a thread through the eye of a needle and into cloth, these words can be stitched into a picture that makes sense. I write to remind myself that the only way to combat the losses of this life is to love harder. And by reminding myself, it seems to remind you too. For some time now, I've wanted to create a place where we could do this together. And here she is, a safe space to kickstart your writing again, or perhaps the bravest step of all, to begin. If you take this practice and find your flow, maybe you can share some of your pages with me and all of us on social media. Let's see, one day at a time. And this is the first and foremostly for you, an act of true self-care. And honestly, this book is when I got this book, I thought, it's too beautiful. I can't possibly write in this. But it's once you do, it feels really comfortable writing on such a beautiful book. And each month that you choose a word of the month. So my word of the month for January was rest, because I was exhausted after last year's shenanigans. I've had hope for this month, fulfillment, gratitude, and it really makes you think. And it asks difficult questions about, look around you and write about something that you've noticed. What is making you feel hopeful right now? What is your guiding word? How's your guiding word helping you? If today were an emotion, I would call it whatever, because as January has progressed, how is your energy? What is your color of today? And it really, really makes you think, actually. And I've written some really personal stuff in there, and it felt really weird taking this book out of the house, because it's, my personal thoughts on there. But I cannot describe the joy that journaling has brought to me, particularly over the last year, which has been really, really difficult. My son Benji got me into journaling, and I always kept a diary when I was younger, but it was a diary, and it was more about writing about what I'd been up to, which is a bit boring when you look back 10 years later, went, got up, went to school, went to work, whatever. That's a bit boring. If something momentous happens, it's great and you can look back. But for me, writing my feelings down is hugely, hugely cathartic. And it doesn't matter if actually the best time to do it is if you are having a bad day, because sometimes you can't speak about how you're feeling, but writing it is, as I say, incredibly cathartic. And her books are amazing, and I see her poetry published all over the world, and she's bringing so many people together, and the power of words cannot be underestimated. So as I say, this book was given to me by my darling Steph. It's Donna Ashworth's Words to Live By, but this is available at Waterstones, Milton Keynes. And I'm very excited to have Monica Ferguson, whom I've not seen since before lockdown. Monica is the Chief Executive and the Artistic Director of the Stables in Milton Keynes. She has played a significant role in the cultural landscape of Milton Keynes, notably through her leadership at the Stables and her involvement in launching IF, which is the Milton Keynes International Festival, which is awesome. So we're going to be talking about that. Under her direction, the Stables has become a prominent venue for live music and arts, and the International Festival has raised the city's cultural profile both nationally and internationally. That's a good intro, isn't it?
Yeah, it's humbling to listen to it. Yeah.
Don't you think it's weird hearing stuff about yourself? Because you think, well, I did all that, but you would never say that about yourself, would you?
Well, it's not all me. I lead a team, and it's the team that actually do the work. So it's a fantastic honour to be part of the Stables. It's a great organisation, and we work really hard together to make things happen that transforms everybody's everyday life.
And it is this kind of hidden gem. And I think also going back to the fact that Milton Keynes is still got that, for people who don't live here, it's still got that perception that, oh, it's concrete canals and right. I mean, you think, oh, for God's sake, let that one go. There is so much more to Milton Keynes. And once you get me started and I'll get on my soapbox, I'm absolutely passionate about Milton Keynes. And culturally, we have so much to offer. And the stables is this little hidden gem that is such an integral part of the arts and culture of Milton Keynes. You must feel so proud to be a part of that.
It's great, and it's got a fantastic history in its own right. It was founded in 1970 by John Dackworth and Cleo Lane, and it went on over that time. It's become one of the UK's best loved music venues, and has had some amazing artists. Everyone from Amy Winehouse to Van Morrison a couple of years ago play. So it's although we're small, we've got 398 seats. It's an incredible space for artists to perform to real music lovers, but also we have a small space for emerging artists, and we run about 400 gigs a year and 250 education projects each year. So it's got a real music heritage and legacy, and I'm very proud to be part of that.
It is a really special place, and it's quite difficult to describe the stables until you've been there, because it is quite unique. It's this, let's say, this little gem sort of hidden away in Wavendon, and it's very intimate, and it feels very special when you're there. You really feel like you're part of something special. And if you're seeing an artist, and as you say, you get some really big names. But I'm going to name drop here, but I was so proud to announce Misha Paris on stage, and she's great. I mean, she's incredibly forthcoming, but again, for me to walk out on that stage, the stable stage, and to introduce an artist like Misha Paris was incredible, and that's one of my sort of one of my proudest moments. And again, the stage, I've seen that sort of Tenors Unlimited, and I've lost track of how many artists I've seen there. But as you say, the smaller stage with the emerging artists, that's the important thing, is sort of making sure that we are nurturing talent, because this is the next generation. They're going to be the next generation of artists that are going to bring us joy. So the big names are great, but we've got to remember the smaller ones.
It's a chance to see people before they become enormous.
Exactly.
And you look back at some of the artists that have played stage 2, the Shires, for example.
Yeah.
Sarah Millican. The list goes on in terms of people who you might have thought I don't know who these people are, but they've turned out to be major artists, and they played our tiny little 80 capacity seat stage. So it's great. It's part of what we do, encouraging talent development as well as audiences coming to see stuff.
It is incredible, and I would urge anybody who's not been to go. It's very, very special. And I'm delighted to be joined by Monica Ferguson, who is the Chief Exec and Artistic Director of the Stables of Milton Keynes. And it's the 8th edition of the biannual International Festival, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I bet you can't believe it. And you've been there since inception, haven't you?
Yeah, it was, for my sins, it was one of my better ideas, I think. We had an opportunity, Arts Council England identified that Milton Keynes was lacking a bit of cultural investment, and we're looking for ideas, and so hot off a project that we did with the MK Dons, where we put musicians in to the stadium before games as we were bidding for the Football World Cup. We were invited by Arts Council England to kind of come up with a concept that might increase investment in culture and the arts in Milton Keynes, and we decided it would be great to do a city festival that used the city as a stage, and that kind of took the artists to the people, rather than having people to come and cross a threshold into a theatre, into an art gallery, into a concert hall.
It's amazing, and I'm always talking about, as you know, I'm passionate about the arts, and I'm always talking about sort of accessibility. I think accessibility is really important, and affordability. And this is not necessarily, I mean, the festival is all those things, but that's something that I think probably must be one of its USPs, is because, times are tough, and the fact that a lot of these events are free and they're on our doorstep, and it's a great chance to be involved, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we couldn't do this without the support of our funders, Arts Council England, Milton Keynes City Council, but also the major businesses in Milton Keynes who support the festival, and indeed our innovation founders. It's a huge financial undertaking, particularly in this day and age, to bring international artists into the UK, which, as you can imagine, is quite a feat. So we spend a lot of time fundraising over 2 years in order to deliver 10 extraordinary days every 2 years.
It's incredible. And obviously, when you had this bonkers idea all those years ago, how did it look then versus what's happened now? You know, you've kind of created a bit of a monster in a good way.
Well, it was originally a pilot festival, and I suppose we always had the vision that actually if we went big in year one, it would... I think there's a great sentiment about having enough content that people then share on social media and share with friends, and word of mouth is the best way of getting to people. And so the quality of the artists has always been at the forefront of what we deliver, and finding artists that are not necessarily people that you would see locally or even regionally, so people that are coming into the UK maybe for the first time. So we've got a lot of UK premieres, and that actually generates its own publicity in terms of PR, but also it does make it stand out from a myriad of festivals. And last year, after the 2023 festival, we were awarded one of Europe's most remarkable festival labels as a consequence of that.
That's incredible. So when you first went out scouting for acts, what was your intention? Because now people must approach you.
They do approach us, and it is a curated festival very much from the perspective that we are looking for that extraordinary thing, that something that will take people's breath away, something that is unique, something that's of scale. Milton Keynes is a big place, so actually we need events that actually can inhabit the city centre in a way that perhaps you need to take over a large space. So, for example, some of the opening and closing events have been pretty large scale, and but then at the same time, some events that are very intimate, that are almost for one person and one artist at one time, because we try to create events that have real impact on people, and that introduce people to maybe, or make people look differently at the world. And this year, for example, lots of artists are making work in response to the way the world is at the moment, with crises and conflict all over the world. Artists are responding to that and saying, there's got to be a better way. How can we come together as a community in order to think about things differently? And so that's the way that we approach kind of trying to programme the festival, is responding to what artists are making, but looking for artists that are making really high quality, exceptional work.
It's really interesting, as you say, art should always make you think, even if you're literally standing in a gallery going, what the hell is that? It should make you think. Absolutely. I'm talking to Monica Ferguson, who's the Chief Executive and Artistic Director of the Stables. Very grand title. Do you wake up in the morning and think, I'm Monica Ferguson, Chief Executive of the Stables? Or you just think, it's my job and I'm just going to get on with it?
It's just a job and I'm getting on with it. I don't think about it at all.
No, I'm joking. Talking about sort of the smaller stage, I mean, you've got... My personal favourite about the festival is the Spiegeltent. I just think it's wonderful, and I've done some dance workshops in there. And I saw Tom Allen before he became Tom Allen, and got heckled by him, and met him afterwards. It was lovely. And then we had the Papini sisters. You've had some really great artists, and there's such variety this year. You've got Lavoie, who is probably going to, by the time my show transmits, would have sold out. She's just incredible. I've seen her act so many times. She does a brilliant Liza Minnelli. Lou Saunders, the Selector, Lucy Spraggan, and Rochford. So these are all names of people we know. But again, you're doing these one-nighters. It's great. You've got artists of this caliber in this incredible tent, which is... Tell us about the Spiegeltent, because I think it's a really special little tent. Well, not that little, actually.
The Spiegeltent was really the heart. I call it the beating heart of the festival. It was the thing that I really... going back to the founding of the festival, really wanted to do, was to bring a Spiegeltent to Milton Keynes. Spiegeltents are Belgian mirror tents. They were travelling dance halls back in the day, and they're made of wood, glass and mirror, stained glass and mirror. And so they create this magical kind of atmosphere, lots of velvet drapes and beautiful lighting. And the idea was that you could sit in a Spiegeltent booth and look in the mirror and maybe wink at somebody in another booth, and you'd have a secret assignation. So there's a sort of magic around them, and people just love them. For us, it's a bit like the stables on the road. It gives us a great space for music, and particularly live music. But the great thing about it, unlike the stables, is that it can be flat floors, so it can be a real dancey, high energy gig space, and that's what we try and do during the festival, is create that opportunity to present some of the artists that we just wouldn't present at the stables for that reason.
And it's such a great lineup again. And how do you pick? I mean, because obviously there's so many incredible people out there. You know, do you pick your favorites, or do you have to be quite objective, or is it easy now because there is so much incredible talent out there?
Oh no, it's actually really difficult, and particularly difficult in the summer, because everyone's playing large scale festivals. People are maybe gearing up for Edinburgh, for example, in the comedy sphere in particular. So actually finding artists at that time of year per se is difficult. But we try and really present a mix in the Spiegeltent. So you'll find comedy, you'll find music, you'll find some stuff that maybe is a bit quirky. So we've got a Quebecois band called Le Vent du Nord, who are an amazing sort of folk, but really dancey kind of folk artists. And then we've got this band called Pete and Diesel from the Outer Hebrides, who have become phenomenal. I mean, they've just shot to success, not just because of the music, which is great, but because they're funny and they tell a great story. So there's this thing, they've actually got fans now, it's called Beatlemania. So if you want something a bit quirky, there's also that element. And then for little people, we've got Monsky Mouse's Baby Dance Halls. So we try and programme something that maybe touches all sorts of ages and gives people an opportunity to experience the Spiegeltent and its magic.
It is really magical, and I mean, you described it far more eloquently than I could have, and I couldn't because I remember before when you were on my show years ago when you described it, and you described it so beautifully again, because it is a magical place, and there is something very special about when you walk in there, and it just feels old-fashioned, like you've stepped back in time, and that sort of, it's quite hallowed, but it's very intimate. And as you say, great dance. You know, I've danced many. I think I was trying to learn to do the Lindy Hop. I wasn't very good at it, but it is such a wonderful thing. So even if you don't get to go in, just having a look at it from the outside is absolutely phenomenal. So Monica, tell me about the fact that you go out. There's two of you in your team, two others of you in your team. You go out all over the world and you source these acts. How on earth do you know where to go, and what's the kind of criteria?
Well, we're very well networked in terms of European festivals, and also, last year actually we got invited to attend a festival and a networking conference in Australia to look at artists from that side of the world. So we get invitations basically to go and see work, and we have a look at their credentials. Is it something that's likely to be presentable in Milton Keynes? And then we make a decision. Is there enough content within that festival to go and see enough work? Or we might go and see work in progress. So, with regards to this festival, and sometimes it just takes one spark. The first event that you see, that your heart stops and you think, that's one I want to be. And so, thinking back to this festival, there was I think we went, two of us went to a festival in Belgium, a circus festival in Belgium in October after the 2023 festival, and there was a German company called Club Gerko, and they presented a piece called Human Time, Tree Time. Extraordinary piece of circus, but balancing trees and twigs and so on, and creates this large beautiful sculpture in a parkland. And it is one of those where your heart stops, because anything could happen at any moment. And we just thought, that's an amazing event. It's a German artist, so it would be really nice to bring them. And actually that then set a tone for the programme for the festival, which was about finding a balance between all the things that stress you out in life, and that point, the tipping point in terms of things like climate change, the tipping point in terms of things like anger, and how you balance all of that out, and how you create a scenario where people find an equilibrium in this world. And so that was the first thing that we put into the programme, or wanted to get into the programme for this festival. But then expanding on that, we were invited to go to see a work in progress by a company called Trans Express, and that work hadn't been completed yet, so we effectively were going to see it in rehearsal. And it was a large-scale project. It was nice to find a large-scale project, because that's quite difficult these days. And it was this just incredible structure. It's very hard to explain, as a lot of the festival work is. But if you take a look online on our website, you'll get a sense of it. And it was it's essentially it's a company that makes giant. It takes a little mobile kind of idea concept, and then it supersizes it up. So imagine a mobile kind of hanging from your above your cot, effectively, and supersize that to it hanging off a 200-ton crane with 20 drummers, circus acts, aerial dancers, and a soundtrack that involves everything from hip hop to opera, and you get a sense of the hair standing on the back of your neck when you see that for the first time as it starts to rise. And so it's always a risk when something's not entirely completed, but you look at then the track history of that company, the other places that they've performed, and then you spend 2 or 3 days with the company talking about how they're going to develop it and so on. So you're very much part of the process, and that is, it takes time and effort, particularly now, to persuade companies to come into the UK, because particularly from Europe, it's very, very difficult to get companies into the UK. And we were very fortunate this year that we were granted by the Home Office of permit-free festival status, which puts us on the same kind of plane as like Manchester International Festival and the big, like Latitude and so on. So that's helped tremendously in terms of persuading people to come into the country. So that shows you've made it then, if you're, say you're sort of, in that sort of same, being talked out in the same breath as Latitude. I mean, that must make you feel you and your team feel so incredibly proud that, and also that bureaucracy has been taken away as well. Yeah, and actually it was lovely, I mentioned Australia, to go to this conference in Australia and to meet some of the programmers from Glastonbury and Latitude and to be sitting at the same table with them. So we're now in dialogue with them around sharing potential artists, and in fact the artists that are playing the opening weekend in the Spiegeltent Yuck Circus, that came from a dialogue with Latitude circus programmer about what was coming in, and so we were able to sort of share costs a little bit and trying to reduce the amount of costs that are absorbed by one festival or another. I guess that makes sense that they're here, they may as well do two. Yes. Yeah, but it's also got to fit, it's got to be relevant, and it's also got to be, it's good to have work that is completely unique. So we've a mix of work where we're doing world premieres and UK premieres, but also to have work where it may be that some people can't get to some of those big festivals, and to be able to present work that is more closer to Milton Keynes and the region, and that is perhaps less expensive than having to buy a whole weekend ticket for one of those big major festivals. Absolutely. It's the last link, and I'm talking to Monica Ferguson about the International Festival, which is imminent. So what are the dates again, Monica? It's 10 days, isn't it? Yeah, 18th to the 27th of July. So that'll be here before we know it. So firstly, the most important thing, the reason you couldn't do it without volunteers. Are you still looking for volunteers? We are. We're very fortunate. We've got a huge cohort of volunteers this year. What we are really encouraging people to do is also get involved in participating in making some of the work. So there's a lot of hands-on stuff this year. So one of the big projects that we've got this year is an Art for Peace project in Middleton Hall, where we're hanging about 3,000 doves, and we need some help in making those doves. It's a German artist called Michael Pendray. So the dove making starts in Middleton Hall from the 3rd of July, so you can get involved in that. We've also got this great project called Zwarmers, which is a company from Holland who do a pan catwalk. It's a catwalk with a difference. They transform themselves into multiple various characters in the space of about 40 minutes with changing clothes as they go. But it's not just about changing clothes, it's about very much a project about identity and how you feel. And one of the things that we're looking for is people to participate in a community version of that. So again, for 4 days, 4 nights before the festival, there's a chance to rehearse with them and to get involved in that project and deliver a community engagement project at Unity Place. And then there's just a sort of sense that we want people to really kind of volunteer for things. So for example, in Midsummer Place, we have a Spanish company called Osadilla who are coming to make hair sculptures. And essentially, we want people to be in the crowd because they will pick somebody out of the crowd and they will transform them into a most amazing.
So if you're having a bad hair day, pick me.
Yeah, but hairs, beards, even people without hair on their heads, they transform them with makeup and all sorts of sculptures that they stick onto their heads. So we'd love people to turn up for that. That's on the opening Saturday at 10 a.m. in the morning and through until 1 p.m. So it's about people getting involved as much as actually wearing a pink t-shirt and handing out information and supporting the visitors that are coming to the festival.
So what are you, I know it's difficult for you to choose, like choosing your favourite child. What are your particular highlights that you would, because obviously there's so much. I mean, it's a booklet full of, goodies, say 10 amazing days. Maybe 3 highlights, what would you say? That's quite hard.
Well, I guess an opening highlight has to be the opening of the festival. We've got a free event which will take place on the Friday evening at 9:45. So if you rock up at Xscape, you can follow the procession to Campbell Park, or you can go to Campbell Park and enjoy the ambience of Campbell Park and the food there, go to the Spiegeltent show, and then watch the finale of Symphony by Diablo Balzac. So that's a major free event for everyone. Drumming, pyrotechnics and special effects. It's an incredible show. The last time we had them here was for the Rugby World Cup when we presented the Clash of Drums, and they were one of 2 artists that presented that. So
I remember that. It was awesome, wasn't it?
So this is the UK premiere of their new show. Then a complete difference is Kamchatka, who we presented the UK premiere of their show in 2023 called Altar in a Woodland at Night. This is the UK premiere of their show called Future. In 2023, The Guardian and The Observer picked that show as one of their highlights, top 10 shows in the UK in 2023. Up against the National Theatre, the Royal Shakespeare Company, etc. They are just an extraordinary, and I've experienced this. I went to do it in Barcelona. It's an immersive thing, so you take part in the show and you go on a journey like no other. And then I guess the other huge thing is the one that I talked about, DNA by Trans-Express, which is the finale event that will take place in the car park next to the point. And it's just one of those things that, again, a UK premiere you won't see anywhere else in the immediate future. And it is one of those jaw-dropping, how did they do that type shows. And I think that's, in a way, sums up what we try to do with the festival is Milton Keynes International Festival. What if we did this? What would happen if we transformed a car park into a giant arena? And so we ask questions of ourselves, we ask questions of the artists, and we ask questions of the audience in terms of experiencing some of the more intimate work across the 10 days. But asking me to pick 3 is like asking you to pick your favourite child, really. Every show has its own merits, and our hope is that there's something in there for everybody. Not everybody will enjoy everything, but there is something that people can connect with, and as I say, a lot of it is free. Lots of pop-up events in the city centre that are supported by my MK, and that will hopefully kind of engage people that haven't heard about the festival. They'll just happen across them, and they'll bump into them, and they'll suddenly go, what's happening.
Milton Keynes is awesome. Thank you so much. Amazing. I know it's a lot to talk about. How do we find out on social media about the festival?
Social media, we're IFMK Fest, so IFMKFEST, and our website is ifmiltonkeynes.org, ifmiltonkeynes.org.
Super. Very, very excited. Monica, thank you so much. It's lovely to see you again. Wish you well. Well, you don't need luck, because it's going to be a phenomenon. And I say, put Milton Keynes on the map again, because we are awesome. But best of luck. I say, Milton Keynes International Festival is on for 10 days. That's the 18th to the 27th of July. I've really enjoyed the show. It's whizzed by as usual. Next week's guest is James Grimsey, who is Creative Director and Head of Vocational Training at Arts One, and probably one of my favourite people in the entire world. If you'd like to be a guest, there's a waiting list. Please drop me an email or DM me on Instagram _NancyMK, and I would love to hear from you. Pop you on the waiting list. But I really, really enjoyed today. Very interesting guests as always, and I've got some really, really exciting news next week, and I'm going to leave it as a teaser, but all I can say is that my son is going to be performing with one of the biggest artists in the world. So watch this space. This is the Nancy Stevens Lifestyle Show. Have an amazing week.